Make every night a wonderful journey, no matter where you are. Good night, sweet dreams. The first story, a conversation of the footbound. Why is it that you will not stay with us? Do you sometimes feel that wherever you may go, there exists no true home for you on this land? You answered me with a question, and you ignored them my question. Well then, here's my answer. No. I have always lost parts of my soul to locations, so much so that I do not have very much left to carry around. Which is sad, because now I realize that if I'm ever to find my true home, I shall likely perish in the process at some point soon. I will plainly disengage and shatter, therefore I no longer wish to seek my selfish dream any longer, lest that in attempt to pursue an earthly connection, I lose heavenly connection. I can understand how that might feel. Now, you have always traveled. If you can feel what I feel, would you not have burnt away the entirety of your soul by now? I feel that if I am to seek my true home as you wish to do, I too am liable to perish, though in a different fashion to you. Which fashion would that be? In plain honesty, I do not feel that my home is bound in terrestrial boundaries. Therefore, I would perish in the breathless and eternal journey. Something about this earth, something deeply ingrained within human nature, and something engraved onto biological nature, simply feels wrong. To further elaborate would bring forth no clearer explanation. I do not understand why could one find fault within nature. It is nature the most natural righteousness there is. I bid you to try to enlighten me upon your plight. Very well, as you insist, though I know not of whether my home exists in celestial worlds, inside infinity, or inside zero. I can hear it calling to me through space-time in a blue and loving voice that wordlessly whispers, I love you, and you bear love only for me searching. You shall never pain for ever. Of course it would be impossible to find my home, to search infinity for one minuscule pocket that houses my soul. It is not ridiculous. For those who can't terrestrial lie beget, their purpose of life find. No difficulty nor doubt in sensing the presence of home being on the same plane as which they gingerly dance. You however have no such senses logically. You are not terrestrial lie-bound. Are you telling me to seek, to submit to infinite wanderlust? I shall follow. How can I am grounded, whereas my home floats in time. Incorrect, your body is grounded, whereas the spirit is capable of flight. Why do you wish to follow me? You have confirmation that your home is nearby. There is no reason that permits you to err farther away from whence you possibly originated. As I have said, I have little soul to burden my back, and little to worth seeking its resting place if I may help another. Perhaps I shall find purpose. That is, if I cannot satisfy happiness, I shall cause it. You believe yourself to be unworthy to seek guaranteed asylum, yet you postulate that I have more value to wander forever pursuing a half-existent sanctum. I ask of you to exploit whatever small chance you may suddenly possess, and you will guide me on an eternal fruitless journey. I will view the face of one who may settle eternally. Shall that suffice for your life? It shall. I give you my sincerest gratitude. We shall depart. But shall we? By freeing the spirit to find the soul, by releasing mind from tangible reality. Death. The second story, casual noises. Have you ever stayed up till late, trying to get to sleep, tossing and turning to find a comfortable position to rest in, but you can't? Whatever reason it may be, legs are getting too warm, pillow is getting too warm, not enough blanket on one part, etc. Alone, in the darkness of your own room at night. Now here, this is your own little sanctuary in the day. You know where everything is. Everything from your collection of video games and movies, to your laptop riddled with more videos and images of the latest Girls Gone Wild parties. It's an entirely different room when no light can or will enter. What I am trying to get at are those quick and sudden pops and craps and here when the room gets too quiet. Ever hear those? Of course you have. They could be frequent. Pop, pop, snap, pop. Or they could just be dormant. For most of the night, maybe a single snap. Most of us would simply brush it off, because it's such a frequent phenomenon. It happens so often, so why should you care? Most of us probably find some way to explain it to comfort ourselves, while the heater is on, and it flows through the vents, and metal expands when it is heated. So that's what those pops are. It's such a small, casual thing. A casual noise, no one thinks of it all that much. No one bothers to pursue all that much. Such a little noise with such a little value. Let's face it, though regardless of how you think of it, you follow them. Every little pop seems to be coming from another spot in the room. While you are room, you follow not with your eyes, but with your head. Pop, turn left, pop slightly right, pop straight up. You can follow with your head, but can you follow the noise to find out where its source is? Wouldn't it be the strangest thing if these pops weren't coming from the vent? If they had another source? But what could they be? Here's an odd question. What kind of flooring do you have? Hardwood? Carpet? Walk on the flooring, and you get annoyed. Hardwood will creak loudly, while carpet will creak a bit fainter. Take this into consideration when you hear these noises while you sleep. It may not be, say, a heater, like you think. Is little to no distinction between making the floor react to footsteps and the pops and snaps you hear at night in your room. The third story, from above. My dad had always been just a tad crazy, but he was my dad after all, so I put up with it. Sometimes it made him fun to be around. Like back when I was a little kid, he told me and my sister a story about how right before his parents found out they were going to have him, something weird happened. They were just driving along, and next thing they knew, the car was sitting in an open clearing in the woods. I thought he was telling us the story to creep us out as usual, but the whole time he was telling it I saw a glimmer of belief in his eyes. It seemed he actually thought he was some kind of experiment. Maybe it was because I grew up with someone who overdid all the paranormal crap, but the older I got, the more skeptical I became. I had seen countless shows with definitive proof of ghosts, like Draft Hunters or alien abductions, and it had led me to one simple conclusion: people are stupid. I'll admit I would still get freaked out at creaks in the middle of the night, but I was too young to know any better. Even after coming face to face with something I couldn't explain, I still couldn't believe. After high school, I thought my life was finally going to shape up to something. I was taking classes in the fall and had managed to start a major in my dream job, video games. I had to stay with my parents because my family had always been on the lower end of the economic spectrum, but everything was finally working out. Oh, how wrong I was. Around Christmas, I woke up to door slamming all over the house. I've learned it with that much noise. I should probably check what's going on. I leap up and open the door, only to jump back as my dad ran past me into his bedroom. Okay, unusual, but maybe he was late for work. I grumbled something about having to get early and started to go back into my room. I was stopped short when I heard strange noises coming from the living room. It was too much to just be a late night snack, so I dashed across the house to see what was going on. I didn't understand what I saw. My dad was hefting a body down onto the coffee table, but it was him. He looked at me with tears in his eyes, and in a cracking, pathetic voice he asked, "Which one is me?" He rushed up, shaking me, and screamed, "WHICHONESME." I heard screaming from my parents' room, so I pushed him away and burst through the door. My mom was standing on the bed, screaming, and the dad running past me was lying there in a fit, convulsing as the left side of his body slowly drooped. I ran back into the living room, and my dad was lying on the floor, curled in a ball, screaming at the top of his lungs, over and over again. So I did what any teenager who was seeing doppelgangers would do. I collapsed to the ground and blacked out. I came to as the police arrived to check out a noise complaint my neighbors had called in. The cops quickly got a hold of the situation and marked off the house while they did their work. They told me my dad had a mental breakdown and orchestrated the whole mess as they carried out the bodies. One of the cops turned to me and said, "Don't worry, it's just some silicone and paint." I said, "Sure," and walked back into the house. After all, how in the hell else could I explain it? I did the only thing I could think of. I went to sleep. I managed to convince myself my dad had just used puppets like the cop said. That's when things turned to shit. The realtors weren't sympathetic to our situation, and the bills started piling up. My dad had been the only one who worked in the house, so I had to get a job after all. Someone had to support the family, even if it meant dropping out of college. I started to visit my dad every week, and he never failed to repeat himself. He would just sit and stare at a black speck on the table for the whole hour. Before one of my visits, I got a call from a friend of mine to tell me just got accepted into his dream college. "Well, would you look at that?" I said. "I never thought you had it in you." I finished the call and headed to the ward. This time, I wasn't going to let him just sit and stare at that dot. I asked the doctor to step outside for a few minutes, and he agreed. They hadn't been able to help him, so maybe I could snap him out of it. I screamed at him, told him how he ruined my dreams and my life, but he just kept looking down at that dot, so I slammed my hand over it. "OWNUPTOWHACYOUTID. I screamed. He shut his eyes as a pained look crossed his face. "Let me guess, you didn't really make those dolls. It was demons controlling you. Or no, wait, it must have been the aliens, right?" His eyes shot open, and he fell back off the chair and scurried over to the corner. I couldn't believe it. He really was using his stupid paranoid delusions as an excuse. I snorted and knocked to be let out. Before I could leave, he raised his head and whispered for simple words, "Don't think about it." He wouldn't say anything else, no matter how much we pushed him. I eventually gave up and went home. As I got into bed, I was still processing the day, trying to figure out what the hell just happened. What was he trying to say? He really was made by aliens, and that story he told us about his parents wasn't bull, that they were testing how much the human mind could take or something, that there was a mistake and they made extras. I laughed and shut off the light. I hit my alarm clock, stumbled over to the bathroom and brushed my teeth. When I was done, I walked to my nightstand and grabbed my laptop. I yawned, looked up, bolted into the bathroom and locked the door. I've been sitting here for the past 10 minutes typing this up to calm myself down and rationalize what's happening. The whole time, I could see someone standing there through the crack in the door. You don't have to believe that I saw me sleeping in that bed, or that I've held myself back as I keep on trying to break down the door. But please, do one thing for me. Don't think about it.